Call the meeting to order. Welcome. This is the February 10th, 2021 regular meeting of the Schertz Planning and Zoning Commission. Item number 2 is alternate, not required this evening, but I'm glad to see you're both here. At least I thought I saw the other one. Okay. Item 3, hearing of residents. This time is set aside for any person who wishes to address the Planning and Zoning Commission. Each person should fill out the speaker's register prior to the meeting. Presentation should be limited to no more than 3 minutes. Discussion by the Commission of any item not on the agenda shall be limited to statements of specific factual information given in response to an inquiry, a recitation of existing policy in response to an inquiry, and/or a proposal to place the item on a future agenda. The presiding officer during the hearing of residents portion of the agenda will call on those persons who have signed up to speak in the order they have registered. And we have Mr. Michael Thomas. Yes, sir. You go ahead and step forward. Oh, okay. All right. So. All right, so takes care of item 3. Item number 4 is the consent agenda. We have 2 items this evening. First being the minutes for the January 27th, 2021 regular meeting. And then item B is PC 2021-003. Consider and act upon a request for approval of a final plat of the Four Oaks Commercial Subdivision, an approximately 9.5 acre tract of land generally located 800 feet east of the intersection between Four Oaks Lane and FM 3009, also known as 17670 Four Oaks Lane, City of Schertz, Guadalupe County, Texas. Commissioners, do we need to pull either of those for discussion? If not, do we have a motion to approve? I have a motion to approve the consent agenda from Mr. Greenwald. Do I have a second? And a second from Mr. Haynes. There's no discussion on consent agenda, so I'll call for the vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye. 7 ayes, none opposed. Consent agenda is approved. Item number 5 is a public hearing. Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing related to zone change requests and replats within this agenda. The public hearing will be open to receive a report from staff, the applicant, the adjoining property owners affected by the applicant's request, and any other interested persons. Upon completion, the public hearing will be closed. The Commission will discuss and consider the application and may request additional information from staff or the applicant if required. After deliberation, the Commission is asked to consider and act upon the following requests and make a recommendation to the City Council if necessary. So item A this evening is ZC 2020-014. Hold a public hearing, consider and make a recommendation on a request to rezone approximately 58 acres of land from single-family residential / agricultural to planned development district, generally located approximately 1,560 feet northwest of the intersection of FM 1518 and Ware Seguin Road, also known as Bexar County Property Identification Numbers 310073, 310106, 310101, 310105, 310104, 310078, 1157215, 310077, and 310083, City of Schertz, Bexar County, Texas. Yes.
Good evening, Commissioners. So the request for the zone change tonight is specifically for the property outlined in green here. It's a little hard to see with the aerial image, so I'll show it in another way as well on just a slide or two. But it's outlined here. So this is Ware Seguin and then 1518, and it's these 8 tracks there. This shows the property a little better. So it's all of the properties that are currently within that blue line. And then per state law, the 200-foot notice requirement of tonight's public hearing is outlined in the red. As of today, 14 of those mailers were sent out on January 29th. We've received one in favor, shown by the green star, one opposed by the red, and then one that didn't select a response but indicated that they wanted to attend the meeting just to get some more information. So this is just another image of the 8 tracks because it is a little different of a shape. So all of the properties that are outlined or shown here in different shades of blue make up the approximately 58 acres. So just to be clear, this property here is not included within this zone change. It's just the properties in blue. So this zone change is in relation to the existing crossvine development. Essentially, this 58-acre zone change is requesting to be part of the Crossvine Plan Development District, specifically Module 1, that was previously approved. So on this side of your screen, this is kind of the overall Crossvine kind of conceptual plan, if you will, shows some of the existing Crossvine that's already developed, and then some of the future phases. So then just to zoom in kind of specifically along where the 8 tracks, that 58 acres is, it's here, basically butts right into the Crossvine PDD that's already zoned for that. So as far as the PDD, because it is a request to a plan development district, essentially it's going to comply with the Module 1 of the Crossvine PDD. So that Crossvine PDD will remain in full force and effect. This PDD Fourth Amendment, as they're calling it, does not change the requirements that were previously approved with that Crossvine Module 1. This will just basically extend the Crossvine PDD to this additional 58 acres. And then some key points for this proposed Module 3B, which is what they're identifying, this 58 acres. It will develop as single-family residential, so there is no commercial proposed on this section. It's just single-family, primarily of the DSFR1, which I'll explain on the next slide. But it can be developed as DSFR1 through DSFR3. Other things to note, this is essentially proposed to be just that natural expansion, so it's going to keep those aesthetics of Crossvine, the green space, the walking trails, the meandering roadways, all those requirements that they put on themselves in Module 1 are essentially going to be utilized for these 58 acres as well. Same things with the construction, landscaping, signage, all of those key features of Crossvine will be extended to these 58 acres, if approved. So here is the table for DSFR 1 through 3. So specifically, DSFR 1 is a 50 by 110, 2 is a 60 by 120, and 3 is a 70 by 120. And just so everyone's aware, this table is exactly the same as what was approved in 2012. The 50 by 110, 60 by 120, and 70 by 120, those were established with the amendment that was done in 2012. So no change on the lot width, just requesting that same exact standards. So I want to point out this is strictly just a conceptual plan. It's kind of the pretty picture, if you will, of how this may develop. There has not been an MDP done or the full engineering done for these 58 acres. This is just the kind of conceptual that there could be a potential 213 residential lots, but this does show kind of the meandering roadways, those smaller cul-de-sacs, the open space that kind of Crossvine's known for. This is what it could look like, if you will. So as far as compliance with the Schertz sector plan and our comp plan, so it was identified as a state neighborhood, but so is the portions of Crossvine that are already developed and already zoned for PDD. So I would say that since the sector plan was done, there has been that kind of change in condition, if you will, with what's planned next to it. So I think the continuation of the Crossvine PDD is probably more appropriate than the estate neighborhood, which would be those half-acre lots. And then since I know it's very close to the APZ, I did want to point out this property is not within either the APZ1 or APZ2. So we did notify Randolph, but they did not provide any concerns back because it's not within their actual flight paths. So this is a picture of the current zoning, the property outlined in red here. So again, you can see that kind of odd L shape, if you will. So it's currently single-family residential agricultural, and then the key thing I want to point out, so you have 1518 right-of-way. The adjacent properties are all zoned single-family residential agricultural, either used for residential or undeveloped ag use. And then all of the other two sides are already zoned crossvine PDD. To get another image of that, subject property is here, and then all of this purple that you see is already zoned for crossvine. So based on the subject property basically being immediately adjacent to crossvine, it being that continuation, and also them implying or them requiring those key features that we've kind of come to use as the standard for that PDD, the open space, the walking trails, those meandering roadways that we've come to really use as the standard for what we look for in PDDs. All of that being incorporated into the 58 acres, it makes sense in staff's opinion to zone this in conformance with that crossvine PDD as well. So staff is making a recommendation of approval of the zone change from single-family residential agricultural to planned development district, since it is kind of that natural continuation. We do have representatives of the development here. They don't have a presentation prepared, but if there's any questions, happy to answer those.
All right, thank you. So the applicant is not looking to make a presentation, correct? No? Oh, okay. All right. All right, so this is a public hearing, and this is the portion of the public hearing where anyone that would like to provide input or comments on this proposed zoning change are welcome to step forward and address the commission. Yes, sir, go ahead and you want to step up to the microphone, and if you would, please state your name and address for the record.
Yeah, you can take it off.
My name is Guy Long. I live at 12506 Wersegeen Road. Is it possible for me to go back to some of those graphics that you had, just to help a little bit? I think slide 6 initially. Perfect. Perfect. And so I'm outside of the buffer zone that got the notice, but I am right on that corner right there of that little triangle-shaped property at Wersegeen Road. For the record, and I know this is probably not the right forum for this, but this is the original Wersegeen Road right there. When this was built right here, it co-opted the name, so we actually don't have a street name here. So even though all the houses there are Wersegeen Road, we don't have a street sign that says Wersegeen Road, and I've brought that up previously to the street folks about EMS and things like that, my concern over that. So anyway, that would need to be addressed as well. But anyway, my first comment, I guess, and observation is talking about conformance with the comprehensive plan. It does say here in the material that was provided, the comprehensive land use plan and Schertz sector plan update identifies the subject property as a state neighborhood. Traditionally, a state neighborhood is designed to be 0.5 acre tracts, but due to the adjacency of existing land zoned as part of the Crossvine PDD and being directly adjacent to FM 1518, the estate neighborhood classification does not seem appropriate at this time based on the change of conditions surrounding the subject property. I don't see an analysis of why the estate neighborhood, it doesn't describe to me there why the estate neighborhood is not something that we could continue to stick with in the further development of Crossvine. It goes on to say, in addition, there are areas of the existing Crossvine development that are also identified as a state neighborhood. Therefore, the addition of the approximately 58 acres would be consistent with the portions of the Crossvine that are already zoned PDD. I don't see the connection there. I don't see the connection if there is state neighborhoods in the existing Crossvine, why we've dismissed state neighborhoods in this new development. Going on a little bit further, I guess, there was a charrette in several years ago, South Schertz charrette that I sat in. And all the residents that were there wholeheartedly were on board with the concept that South Schertz would retain a rural character. And I'm failing to understand how 213 residential lots crammed into 58 acres is consistent with the rural character of South Schertz. Understanding that, Crossvine is what it is, but this to me starts to look a little bit more like Cibolo on 1103, and I'm concerned about that. As I'll go on, I'll point out why. What you do not see, and what my concern is in living in that little part of Ware Seguin, is you don't see where this, and I know this is notional, I know this is not, this is just a plan, but there's a lot of houses back here on this side. This is supposed to be Crossvine as well, and then this is Ware Seguin right here in that corner. And in the master plan for Crossvine initially, it showed a spill out onto this little Ware Seguin road right here. And I'll tell you, I mean, it's 16 feet across Ware Seguin Road, and it's really small. And there's these these five houses right on that block right there. So what is not said in this, and I don't see this in any of the impact analysis. It talks about not being an impact on infrastructure, impact on public facilities or services, and compatibility with existing and potential adjacent land uses. I don't see any analysis of the impact for people that want to take that shortcut back out this way and get over to 1604. It would be a logical move rather than going all the way out here, going over to Lower Seguin Road, and then making your way to 1604. I would do it. Everybody else would do it. It's a nice shortcut. So that's my concern, is there isn't any analysis of what the traffic impacts are going to be on this neighborhood back here, and furthermore, what the development of Ware Seguin would look like to be able to support that. I think that's all I had. Might have been one other. I think that does it. This right here, again, I know this is all notional, but this shows, so this is tracks 1 through 8 right here, Crossvine development right here. This shows a spill out right onto Ware Seguin, right on that very small corner right there. So again, lots of impacts on this small neighborhood right there that I just wanted to bring to your attention. So anyway, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Well, you're more than welcome. Thank you, sir.
What was your name again, sir?
Guy Long, Guylong.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else like to address the commission? All right. Step on up, and if you would, please, state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Shalina Wells, and we recently purchased the lot that is there on that Ware Seguin Loop. The address is 12432 Ware Seguin Loop. And I share the same concerns that Mr. Guy Long had with I wasn't able to see all those different pictures. All I received was the letter stating that this was going to happen. So this is where my property is, right here on this corner. And so if there's going to be a spillage road right over here, that's going to greatly impact this small road that's right here. That's pretty raggedy already. It has a lot of holes in it and bumps, and it's not a developed road. It's just kind of some concrete there that goes around the curve. And so I was talking with one of the neighbors, the neighbor that lives directly behind. Okay. So my property is this corner right here, and I was talking to the gentleman that owns this property here, and he was telling me about the subdivision. He didn't tell me, or maybe he didn't know, that it was going to actually be a part of Crossvine. And so his interpretation was that there would be no exit from this subdivision onto this little road, and that the road would not be completed or had any significant work done on it by the city until all the development in that area was complete. And so now, listening to the previous speaker, it seems like there will be some spillage onto that road there with a lot of extra traffic coming around that curve there where we're building. And so, I mean, the big reason, we love Schertz. We've been here, we're a retired military family. We've been here since we retired. My husband retired in 2004, I retired in 2009. And just love the city of Schertz and wanted to stay in Schertz, but wanted bigger property than what was available. And that was the whole purpose of us buying that lot. And so we're getting ready to build, like we're breaking ground as soon as Schertz approves our house plan, and to now find out that we're going to be right back in the midst of what we were trying to get away from, really kind of is a bummer for us. So I just wanted to, I did call the office yesterday and spoke with the lady, I can't remember her name, that was listed there, and she did, I asked the question, if that road was going to be developed more, would that require any encroachment from the city onto our property to widen that road? Because that road is significantly small. 2 cars cannot pass each other on that road. And she assured me that if the road was going to be widened, it would be widened specifically on the new subdivision side and not take away from our property. So those are our big concerns for our family. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you for your input. Anyone else? One more time? No one? All right, that'll end the public input. Would staff like to reply to any of those comments? No? No, if you have some answers or some information for the folks, otherwise we'll just press on with the discussion, and I'll have a couple questions for you from their questions, but okay. All right, commissioners, your turn. Comments, questions?
Can we go back to the place where you showed the amendments? It's worded that by approving this we're making, and I need an interpretation of that first one. It's not making sense to me, please.
Okay, so essentially what that first bullet point is saying, that this 58 acres is all going to develop as residential, primarily of the DSFR1, which is that 50-foot wide lot, but it can be developed as the 50s, the 60s, or the 70s. But it's all going to be residential. At their plan at this point is the majority being 50-foot wide lots, but it can develop as any of these three lot sizes. Does that help?
It helps. Does not satisfy my concern. Because when we did this PDD to start out developing cross vines, we weren't trying to put a whole bunch of 50 by 100 lots in place anywhere down there. And we certainly had problems because we were at touching and in some places crossing the ACOS. And I just need to look at this a little more. Thank you.
Last time I went down there around that old Ware Seguin, it's still an old farm road. It hadn't been changed in 40-something years that I know of. I don't see how they could improve that road without taking some property from that lady that was just up here. The way that thing is laid out, there isn't enough room.
So the one thing I would say is that this conceptual plan does not show an access point onto the Ware Seguin Loop. I just wanted to point that out. Trying to see where it is. Hold on.
I'm not talking about an access point. What I'm talking about is just making that road a two-lane road.
Yes, so
It's not capable right now.
so when this portion comes in for actual development, right, just keep in mind, it's not part of the zoning tonight, but when this part comes in for actual development, they'll be required to do their half of the dedication, their half of the improvements. And I know that the access point has been a big conversation with the Crossvine folks, trying to figure out where that would best fit. And Bradley, I don't know if y'all have kind of come to a, yeah?
Commission. We recognize, first of all, the residents that spoke have valid concerns, and we recognize that. One of the things we're doing is we are working with the city right now, recognizing that the exit point off of what we call the current, as it's showing on this slide, is not what it's ultimately going to be. It's going to be pulled all the way over to the other side, and we're in negotiations with the owner of that small triangle to purchase that property, and that road will go straight out onto the main Lower Seguin Road.
Or where, yeah, Ware Seguin,
I'm sorry, Ware Seguin.
the newer,
The new, it will go, it will spill out onto the newer section, and it will bypass
loop.
all the residential
Yeah.
owners.
all right.
I also want to point out that the way this is set up, when we do get to that next section, we will have to come back before P&Z and get another amendment approving whatever that ultimate closure is. One other thing is some concerns were expressed about the 50-foot lots. Essentially what we're doing is what we did on the Pulte section, which, how does this work? Oh. This, what we're talking about tonight, will look very much like this, which is what we call the Pulte section, and that had a similar number of lots in it and stuff.
Thank you.
Go back to the listing where you had the lots. There you go. $65% of them will be 50-foot lots.
Are you talking about the 65%? So that's the maximum impervious coverage for each. There's not a breakdown of, there's going to be this many of the 50s, this many of the 60s, and there's also not a percentage. They can't have more than, X percent of a certain type. That was not done in the original Crossvine PDD.
Thought when we developed that listing, that requirement was part of it.
So this table is exactly the same as it is in the original ordinance 12S16 with the modifications of the, 2 stars down here for the max home size, but the rest of it is directly pulled from the already adopted Crossvine.
My concern, according to the writing that you showed and I asked about a while ago, is my concern. Because what it says is we're going to use these 3 lot sizes. I don't care what we call them. Going to use them forever for the remainder of the development of this subdivision.
Which it already is. So these 3 lot sizes are,
They were used. but they were used in designated areas. So we had estate areas. We had equivalent, yes, the number 2 areas. We did not have an area that was, until we did this amendment a while back for the development that's going on, we didn't have the 50-footers where we crammed everything together. We had lots of space. We're losing space is what I'm concerned with. As we come to the southern end of this development, we're trying to cram in so much stuff on the ground that the fact that what this thing was originally built and proposed to be is not true anymore. It's a regular subdivision just with special definitions. That's my concern.
I would completely appreciate. The only thing I would say is all of those other unique standards that Crossvine has, the open space, the landscaping requirements, all of that, the trails and walkability, all of that's going to be incorporated into this as well. Even if it's developed all as 50-foot wide lots, they still have to do all of those above and beyond unique things.
That's my line, Ernie. Oh.
I just kind of want to go through a timeline here of the chain of events. So originally, this entire area in South Church was set aside to stay rural without too much development.
That's what was desired in the comp plan and the South Schertz sector plan.
Right, and that still hasn't changed, although we have made some decisions to allow some development into that area.
Correct, but as you guys know, the comp plan amendment has, started with city council's approval of that. So the comp plan will change.
Correct. And this original Crossvine PDD was approved in 2014,
No.
2012.
So there was Sedona, and then Sedona in 2012 became Crossvine.
Right.
And then since then, there's been a couple of amendments that were listed in the staff report. So we got to the 4th one, this is the 4th amendment.
Right, so one amendment was 2014. The last amendment was in 2017, July 26, to allow for garden homes. That's a little bit bigger of a lot. We talked about this at the last meeting. Somewhere between the time that this Crossvine PDD was approved originally and now, as I was informed at the last meeting, City Council made the determination to stop approving smaller residential lots. So just being consistent with that ordinance and moving into now, this is going backwards from where that was originally put in place. They asked for bigger lots, and now they're asking for a whole bunch more smaller lots.
Well, Brian, let me jump in here real quick. Because you all recall the discussion we had 2 weeks ago when we were looking at the proposed Saddlebrook PDD. And while there were several concerns brought up, I think the consensus and the majority of it was too many small lots, too dense development. Well, let me share an epiphany with you that I had several days later. I found the plat for Savannah Square, Unit 2, in my lot. I have a just shy of 2,500 square foot, story and a half, 2-car garage, all that good stuff, and my lot is 60 by 100. The lot next to me, which has got a 3,200 square foot full two-story house on it, is 50 by 100. Savannah Square is an R7 subdivision. Okay? If that gives you some idea of what we're talking about. I've kind of looked and thought this over, and I don't know that council, back when they passed this ordinance against R6, any further R6 and R7, were really concerned about lot sizes. I think what they were concerned about was how many homes you can get in a subdivision. And the way to control that was to require bigger lot sizes. I'm wondering the easiest way to show them. See, I've been around. I remember the original Sedona subdivision, and we've kind of got a picture of it in here. But if it wouldn't be too much, because I want to show you what it could have been.
Hard to see, but this is the original Sedona.
Yeah, do you see that? It's a rectangle with three straight streets, but then as that was developing, I don't know all the ins and outs of what happened, but that's the Sedona subdivision that's the kind of thing we could have seen throughout this. Well, something stalled that subdivision, and I don't know where Mr. Price, where in the whole thing he came into it, but we went through several, this whole concept has morphed several times. And you can see what they've done with the majority of the area, where they've gone with, their concept of pod development, where instead of everything being a straight street, the houses are basically what I call cul-de-sacs. And they've shown, I commented on the PDD, one of the words is innovative design, and we've seen a lot of that. But to give you some perspective, again, Savannah Square today would be an R7. I would imagine that Woodland Oaks is probably the same. And to be honest with you, when I sat here and I read about R6 and R7, I had this picture in my head of all these houses crammed together, but that's not what it is. I think it was council's way to limit how many homes and how much additional strain we could put on the infrastructure. Okay? So, Brian, did you want to?
Sure, maybe just to your point in terms of the timing and the history and kind of the way it came about, and I think that was extremely helpful, Mr. Outlaw. So you're right, the initial Sedona development that was built, and it's not showing up somehow, but the initial Sedona development that you see, that was the original thing, and this whole area was essentially laid out just like that. You're right, what happened is it kind of went bust when the economy turned, new group, some different people came in with them and redid it. And so when I first started here 8-9 years ago is when they started on the zoning. And I think we talked about what we wanted as a community, what the vision was, been innovative, something a bit different. And this was really intended to be this diverse, I would say, mix of product types. Now what's happened is the single family stuff has come in. We haven't seen the apartments come in. We haven't seen an assisted living come in. Haven't seen the garden home. Again, they've got the garden home kind of working. But it was intended to be a diverse mix. And so I think from staff's perspective, not surprising then that we get a new part coming in and they're saying, hey, this we want to be a smaller section. The thing I think that's missed with this, though, is that originally, and it was a good point to Commissioner Evans' point, the crossline also included the property over to the west in the APZ2, and that was half-acre lots. It was zoned to allow half-acre lots, and that was part of their plan. It's disappeared after Randolph updated their JLUS and said, wait a minute, that wasn't quite what we imagined when we said half-acre lots is okay. A whole bunch of half-acre lots here is hugely problematic. And so often give developers credit, but to the developers' credit, and I think understanding the impact of Randolph on the community and the area and the problems that would occur and the challenges they would have developing, they dropped that area. And so I can appreciate, hey, what's the right balance? The right balance, again, was supposed to have a bunch of half-acre lots to offset. As it is, we're not going to have those. So the total number of units comes down, but I think it's important to keep that in mind that the newer members probably don't know is that, yeah, we'd normally look just across that green, you'd have a bunch of half-acre lots bringing the density down. I would say a slightly different. My impression is what I heard when I got here, and certainly Commissioner Greenwald and Evans were here at the time we had these discussions, was on some of the newer, small, or more recent smaller lot subdivisions coming in, we were having problems we hadn't necessarily experienced before. A lot of issues with cars parking, a lot of issues with the way subdivision looked. And you two may remember we kind of ran through this exercise where we kind of went through that and talked about, let's talk about these neighborhoods we like and that we have some challenges with. And we were all surprised to go, some of the ones we really like, lots weren't that big. Well, what did they do? They saved trees. They often have some topography to them, so it wasn't kind of a flat farmer's field. And they kind of wove around the design a bit and had a little bit maybe more variation in lot size, so you avoided some of those things going forward. And again, as I said 2 weeks ago, I think that's the challenge we're going to have on this. Once we settle out density, lot size, whatever, it's how do we mitigate those things that were around 10 years ago that caused council to go, no more R6 and R7. And I think that's going to be the balance we find. So hopefully that kind of helps with your question on it. But in my mind, the intent always was, this is, I think, the largest master plan community we have in Schertz. It was not going to develop in a short time frame. And given how market trends changed, I think there was an understanding that it was going to come in and change and morph to kind of respond to customer demand and the economy and things like that. And that's kind of why we built in that minor, major modification even to try to help with that. So there you go.
Miss Emily, on this current picture, is the line on the left side, is that the limit to Crossvine right now?
This line?
Yeah, go to the next one.
This one?
Yeah.
No. So, let me see if I can. So that equates to this property here.
Yep.
This whole section here that's within the APZ2, that's also zoned Crossvine. So that's what Brian had mentioned, that there's no plan for this at this point because it's in the APZ2. But that section, so if you picture, sorry, it's a couple slides. So this chunk here, right? That is this chunk.
That's going to be the limit of the development.
Of the
Right.
actual residential lots, yes.
Okay. All right.
Not the limits of the Crossvine zoning, if you will.
The residential lots is what I was after. Okay. What is the final plan for Ware Seguin? 60 foot, 70 foot, 90 foot?
Mr. Bro.
Nick? Well, there seems to be concern about traffic on Ware Seguin. So I'm curious, I don't remember from our transportation plan, but what's the final build-out going to be? Is Ware Seguin going to be as it is today, or is it going to be widened at some point in the future? I don't remember.
You want me to look it up?
You remember? You don't remember?
I don't remember, but Nick is being very helpful and is looking it up on his phone right now.
Okay.
I don't remember.
And then if it's accurate that little L-shaped loop, Ware Seguin, if it's got the same name as the newer Ware Seguin, we need to fix that. Or maybe Mr. Price has a name in store for when he butts out into that Ware Seguin at one point. I don't know. But it seems to me that we can't have two Ware Seguins right next to each other, I don't think. Do we have a plan to fix that? Somebody needs to.
So this is from our interactive map, and it shows Ware Seguin, and then this is Ware Seguin Loop.
Oh, Ware Seguin Loop.
Okay, so Nick looked it up on the master thoroughfare plan. It is planned for a secondary rural arterial, which is 90 feet of right-of-way at the ultimate.
Okay, so I think for the folks who are concerned about traffic on Ware Seguin, a 90-foot thoroughfare is basically, what do we have now that's 90 foot? I forget. Parkway?
What's Lower Seguin Road?
Lower Seguin is planned as that as well.
Yeah.
A 90-foot thoroughfare is a good-sized road. It's going to take some time to develop into a 90-foot thoroughfare, but so do all roads. Take time to develop. And I'll just add that it's never a good idea to talk to your neighbor about what the future plan for vacant property in Schertz is. It's always a good idea to get with planning and zoning and other development folks to find out what's going on in and around your neighborhood, because this crossvine development has been on the books since 2012, 2014. So it's not a big secret, and it shouldn't be any surprise, but I've never had success talking to my neighbors about what the planning is for the future. So that's all I have. Thanks.
Anyone else? I've got several notes here, Emily. But let me start with by addressing one of the residents. He's absolutely correct in that the comprehensive land use plan and the sector plan still shows this area as estate neighborhood. Is that what it's called?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that plan was a consensus document developed with, he remembers the Schertz, the public meetings we had. We had inputs from all the stakeholders and put together what we considered to be the vision for Southern Schertz. Well, unfortunately, that's changing. And, City Council's already approved 2 amendments to that, changing it from estate neighborhood to single-family residential. That was, this commission expressed some concerns about amending a consensus document through individual petitions, but, council has seen fit to do otherwise. So, and part of that is in recognition, Mr. James talked about, the things change. Market changes, what people are looking for, or, what kind of homes they want is changing. Property owners change. A lot of this is, we got a lot of kickback from longtime residents out there that didn't want development. And now those people have moved on and their heirs want to sell the property. And of course, to sell it, they're talking to developers, and the developers have, they're responding to market demands. So I'm not sure, I think council in the budget has approved redoing the comp plan. How long that's going to take, what it's going to look like is anybody's guess. But that's kind of where we're at with the comp plan. Looking at, and unfortunately, we're really only supposed to be looking at this particular piece that's but since we show the overall, my question here is what is already been zoned PDD? When go back to that one you just had up. Well, that one's good too. Okay.
Everything that this color purple.
Okay.
So all of this, all of this, all of this, and including these properties here. All of that is existing zoned plan development district.
So the piece that the folks are concerned about with the outlet onto somewhere onto Ware Seguin, that's already been zoned PDD. Just hasn't been planned yet.
Correct.
Okay. I think between that question and Mr. Price's input, you answered my question about where we're at. I'm looking at a Google map aerial, and so far, and you know, they're not real time, but what I'm seeing is the actual development for Crossvine is basically north of Founders Academy. They haven't really done any, they haven't started anything south of that. Is that still pretty much correct?
So it's kind of shown here. So this is that Pulte section that
Right.
Bryce talked about, and
Yeah.
then, you know, this is Sedona, and then the garden homes kind of earmarked for the apartments. But then this is all existing, this is
Yeah.
all existing, and then this is kind of that next phase of
Right.
development right now.
So we're somewhere down the road to actually probably doing any development work down here, I think. That out parcel that kind of sits in the middle of this PDD, can you show me what the current zoning is for that out parcel?
The founders or
No. If you bring up the concept plan for the,
of the 58 acres.
yeah, that out parcel right there, what's the current zoning on that?
Single-family residential agricultural,
Okay.
the RA.
And I'm a little concerned that the developer hasn't, there's no provision in the plan to ever, you know, if he should acquire that, there's no, he's not showing any plans to incorporate that. So we're going to be, you know, we're just going to be stuck with an island there. There's no interconnect, there's no future interconnect to it, or, and that's a little concerning.
I would say that's why I really emphasize just the conceptual. You know, staff hasn't gone through this and said, you know, exactly where all of your connections need to be, but even on this, so this is kind of that out parcel here. They are showing a stub, which would be required to the adjacent property.
Right.
They're showing that stub as, you know, if this were to be redeveloped at some point, it would have an access point into, you know, this phase.
And now that I'm looking at it and staring at it a little bit better,
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm totally wrong.
no, but that's okay. I understood what
Totally wrong.
I understood what you were telling me about. They're not proposing any homes along that because I guess it's not wide enough. So there is the capability in the future, if they were to acquire that and want to populate it, there's a place there that they could punch a street through. So, and while we're looking at this, again, it's not quite as innovative and what's the word I'm looking for? New wave isn't really what I'm trying to say. As what we've seen before from Crossvine, but I'm still seeing, somebody commented about open space, and all you got to do is look at the amount of green that's showing there. That's, you know, they're not coming in with a more traditional subdivision. Might just be a big, you know, they'd be filling every bit of that with. They'd work the streets so that they're putting houses there instead of still allowing open space. So a comment that you made in I thought out here, and maybe I'm confusing it with other PDDs. They've come in and said, here are the proposed lot sizes, but of our 1,000 lots or whatever, we're going to have 30% this and 30%. We don't have a breakout of that for.
Not for this section, but I'm going to turn and look at Bradley just to make sure that that's accurate. Not for this section.
So Crossvine as a whole, we don't have a limit as to what percentage can be this lot size, right? Because the other things we've worked with, they come in and say, we're going to limit these lot sizes to so much percentage, and then staff, we don't necessarily limit where you put that percentage, but staff monitors it to make sure that you don't exceed that, okay? Mhm. Okay, thank you. So, and then again, just to refresh our memories, this is to approve an amendment. This would be, I think, the fourth amendment. But then the follow-on to this they will be required to submit a master plan, which again will come back before the commission, and right.
They'll have to do the preliminary plat, which you guys will see, the final plat that you guys will see. If they want to break this into different units, then they'll have to go through that MDP. So they still have to follow all the same processes for the actual plan development. This is just for those guidelines, basically. They still have to follow everything else that anyone.
Well, yeah, so basically what we're looking at, where they've got the three different lot sizes. If we were to recommend approval to council and council were to approve it, all we're really saying is, okay, you can use, we approve the PDD and all whatever's in there, and you can use those three lot sizes in the PDD. They still have to come back then with a master plan to show us how they're, and the plat, as you say, how they're actually going to lay out the streets, how many lots they're going to have, and all that kind. So, because again, I'm beginning to realize that the issue isn't so much lot size as it is how many homes you're putting in. That's really the way to look at it. Okay, I think that was all I had. Commissioners, anybody else? Any more thoughts, comments, questions?
The original Sedona, I think, had a lot of control from Bear County because they had to approve it. And that's why you saw the 3 drag strips. Shortly afterwards, we took it over. But all along, again, I still think it used to be in there that every PUD had it broke out by a percentage. The 50-footers were so much, 60s, whatever you were going to put in there. That's why I was questioning it, but because I don't see it here. Anyway.
And that may be where we end up in the future. The action we took 2 weeks ago is really we've sent that to council, and now we're waiting for their guidance to come back, so we get a better feel for what they're looking for. And it may be that in the future, as these things come forward, we may require something like that says, okay, we're going to allow you to have 50 by 100 lots, but no more than a certain percentage. And we'll just have to wait and see where that goes.
Yeah.
Try to make things a little easier on us, I think.
We get one question here about why are we allowing all these subdivisions? Well, back when this was all originally developed as residential agricultural, that was the deal. You couldn't sell the property unless it stayed RA. Well, obviously a whole bunch of people have decided to sell their property. That owner now has the right to come in and ask for different zoning. Okay? Not necessarily we're going to approve it, but anyway, yeah, I think the percentage layout would be a big help, and it gives our people something to go by that says, all right, you're only going to have 35% in the 50-footers and whatever else breakouts you got.
We should see that on a preliminary plat, right?
On the preliminary plat, we'll know exactly how many lots of each different type there will be.
Yeah, this one tonight is just, we're just approving a PDD. Okay, so when the preliminary plat comes, we'll see the number of 50, 60, 70 lots.
Yes, sir.
And it's maybe a general consensus on the commission, I don't know, that we don't generally care for 50-foot lots, but city council seems to think different, so we'll see what happens.
Yes, exactly. Again, I assume somewhere there's a record of the discussion that went into passing that ordinance, and really, as I look at it, I think it was more an effort to control the number rather than the actual lot size. I want to make a comment about drag strips. It really doesn't matter what you do. You know, I live on the corner of Forsyth Park and Savannah Drive. And as you go west on Savannah, the next street is Whitaker. And there's a stop sign at Forsyth Park. There's a stop sign at Whitaker. And that one block, everybody's in a hurry to get to that next stop sign. So it's... yeah, you know, it's just people, and yeah. All righty, commissioners. Anybody else? What we're looking for this evening is a recommendation to City Council to approve or deny this zoning change request. Yeah, right.
The amendments to the zoning.
So it's specifically to change the 57.438 acres from RA to PDD. Yeah.
But we're throwing in some amendments because we're changing the PDD.
So it's specific just for this 58 acres, though. So it doesn't change the whole Crossvine PDD. It's just applicable to these 58 acres. So those design standards go with these 58 acres.
Yeah, it's a little confusing because, you know, it's labeled the Fourth Amendment, but yes, we are amending the Crossvine PDD, but specifically, this amendment applies to this 58 acres, right? Yeah, it's a little confusing.
It is.
Well, please go back to the words. No, you went past it. Go backwards. The last line of that tells me that the lots which may be permitted in any subsequent amendment to the Crossvines PDD. So we are amending the PDD with those words.
But if you continue to read, so it talks about, if we go back to this slide, the Crossvine PDD remains in full force and effect. The requirements, conditions set forth in the Crossvine PDD are applicable to these 58 acres, and then nothing in this Fourth Amendment shall be deemed to modify any elements, requirements, or conditions of the Crossvine PDD. So it is confusing, and I'll be honest, I had the same conversation with Bradley that I've had to wrap my brain around it because this was the first real Crossvine amendment that I've worked on, is that it's called the Crossvine PDD Fourth Amendment, so it keeps kind of going with Crossvine because it's using that Module 1 requirements for these 58 acres. But it doesn't, this Crossvine PDD doesn't throw out everything that's been previously approved.
And that's where we talk about things like streets and sidewalks and
meats and potatoes,
fences and all of that stuff.
This is really just The 58 acres is going to comply with everything that's in Crossvine Module 1, and it's going to be developed as these 3 lot sizes, all single-family residential.
I get it. And we'll work on Mr. Evans over here. So,
Basically just making Crossvine 58 acres bigger,
Right.
if that helps.
yeah. Anything else? Anyone want to make a motion?
We just use the number?
Mm-hmm.
What would the number be again?
ZC 2020-014.
Say again, please.
ZC 2020-014 is the case number.
I move that we recommend to amend as per ZC 2020-014.
I'm sorry, I couldn't quite hear you.
Make a motion to approve the amendment as referenced as ZC 2020-014 to the City Council.
Okay, and just so we're clear, that's recommending approval to City Council, correct? Okay, so I have a motion to recommend approval from Commissioner Haynes. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, and that was Richard. Okay, and a second from Commissioner Broad. All right, Commissioners, any further discussion? Call for the vote.
Nay.
Aye.
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 Nay.
Aye. So if I counted correctly, that's 4 ayes and 2 nays. So that, that motion passes. We will forward this to City Council with a recommendation for approval. Do you need anything? Okay.
I think it's 5-2, I think.
5-2. And then Mr. Evans, Mr. Platt, if I can get each of you to indicate why your vote was nay, so I can put that in the council memo. So whoever wants to go first. Mr. Evans? Okay.
I personally agree with the concerns of the 2 residents that came up here and spoke, along with the fact that we originally saw the existing Sedona development, and that if you take the conceptual plan, which I understand is just a conceptual plan, and you overlay that on this map that they already have, you'll see it's almost not in line with their proposed plan and how nice it looks, and that community that they're selling us on. So those are my concerns.
Mr. Platt.
Okay. All right. So item 6 is requests and announcements. Item A, request by commissioners to place items on a future planning and zoning agenda. Anyone have anything that they'd like to put on the agenda?
Yeah, I was looking at at our bylaws, planning and zoning bylaws, and I just happened to notice that it's indicating that P&Z meetings would be held on the second and fourth Tuesday of each month,
Oh, it does. Okay.
unless I was given an old one.
Do you think, would that require, yeah, because if it's wrong, we have to amend it, so, okay. And then if it needs to be changed, we'll just put it on the agenda. Okay? All right. Anybody else? You must be desperate for reading items. Okay. All right. Item B, announcements by commissioners. Anybody got anything they want to share with the group? No. All right. Announcements by city staff, new site plans and,
Just one new site plan to address here. It's, oops, sorry. It's for that Four Oaks commercial lot that you had just approved the final plat for. This one's a bit tough to tell. This is just the general site plan sheet. But it's a 170,000 square foot office warehouse distribution center with about 164,000 square feet of office and about 6,000 square feet of, 164,000 square feet of warehousing, 6,000 square feet of office, excuse me. I thought this she would illustrate it a little bit better just to show the building footprint and the surrounding landscaping. Again, this is on Four Oaks Lane, about 800 feet east of the intersection between Four Oaks and FM 3019. So that's it.
all right, and then you'll see they've also listed actions by city council. So there being no further business, this meeting is adjourned.